What's up, man? You tired? I barely noticed. hmm I mean, it feels a lot different. When we were there in 2011, it was in our home stadium, so not a whole lot changed. We were still staying in the same spot. We had hotel rooms downtown, but I mean, your week didn't really change a ton. And being a third string guy is a little different than actually preparing to be the starter. So it feels a little bit different than that year, but still, knew what to expect coming into this week. I mean, outside of all the lights and cameras and all that kind of stuff, it's still just a regular week in terms of coming out day one, getting our walkthrough done, putting our install in, things like that. As I said yesterday when we landed, there's opportunities for things to pull you in different directions, but if you're focused and you're a pro, it's a work week, and we treat it as such. So we're just going to go about how we do in a normal week. I mean, you guys know Travis well. He's a true pro. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to go out of his way to get the spotlight on him. He's just going to go and do his job. And he always handled himself very well professionally and all that type of stuff. He had a little bit more to do that week because he was a finalist for the MOP and ended up winning it. So there was a lot of other stuff that he had to do in terms of like the banquet dinner and things like that to get ready for. But what I did learn from him was just to take it all in and enjoy it, but not make it too big and just treat it like any other week. It's an opponent that we've played twice this year, and we're going to play him a third time, and we're going to prepare the same as we did those first two times. I mean, probably the closest would be in 2011 in BC. We had I don't know what the streak was. We needed one because we started off 0-5, so we had to win. But no, we're playing good football right now, and I think the reason why that is because we just take it one week at a time. We don't look at the streak. We don't look at how many we've won or lost or anything like that. And we don't worry about things that are further down the road. Last week when we were playing Calgary, we were worried about that. We weren't worried about the Montreal game that we played before. We weren't worried about this game. One element of that disappears when you're in the Grey Cup because there is no next week that you can look forward to. But we've moved on from the Western Final, and it's been all about Ottawa since Monday morning. And that's how we've always done it, and I think that's why we're able to show up and play well. When did I say it to myself? Probably 2010 when I first signed in BC. Like that day, I was like, "Oh man, I'm ready to start." When I actually was ready to start, those are two different things. If you're a pro football player, you always have the confidence that you're ready to go out and play and do the things that your team needs you to do. But so the first 2.5 seasons when I was in Vancouver, that was tough because I didn't get that opportunity to play. And looking back on it now, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for me. I've seen a lot of guys that have some pretty good talent come through this league, and they get pushed into a position to play too early, and they don't really know how to handle it, and they don't take that opportunity that they get, and they don't play as well as they could have. For me, I'd already been on the team for 2 years before I got my first start, and it was late in the season. So by that point in time, I knew a lot about CFL defenses. I had got a lot of practice work against our defense, which was probably the best in the league at the time, if not the best, definitely one of the best. And, I feel like that prepared me, for the role I've had for the last 3 years, for sure. Oh, here we go with the stats again. Yeah, I mean, I joke about it with you, but honestly, I don't look at the stats, and I don't really care about the completion percentage and all that kind of stuff. What I do care about is when I watch the film, seeing that I've done enough to help my team win. And certainly there's been games where I felt like I could have done a much better job. And even games where I felt like I played pretty well. The last couple games I've watched the tape and still found a lot of things that I need to continue to improve on. Um, but, it was probably towards that stretch run at the end there, the last, 2, 3 games, something like that. You just start to feel more comfortable with the wideout crew that we have. We got, a great group of guys, and half of them weren't here last year, so it takes a little bit of time. Obviously, the first half of my season got interrupted, so I didn't get that work with those guys. Um, but part of it is that. The other part of it is just, my understanding of our game plan and how we're calling things and why we're calling them and when we're going to do things so that, I'm just an extension, really, of our coordinator out on the field in terms of, when a certain call is getting played, or a play is getting called, excuse me, you know, I, I pretty much knew it was going to get called anyway. And that's where you want it to get to, and we're going to continue to work on that. Obviously, even this week we're trying to get better, and that's always the theme. And next season it'll continue that way. But right now this is the game that we're focused on, and it's not like we sit there and watch a tape of the last one and go, man, that was good enough. Let's just play like that. We want to play better than we played last week, and we're going to work in the entire week to try to make that happen. I don't know. I don't really think about how I come across them. I'm just myself with those guys. Um, I think certain things have always come pretty naturally to me. But again, the first 3 years that I was in the league, when you're not the starting guy, you can't really be in that role. That's somebody else's job. Over the course of a season, you got to be able to adapt. Early in the year when I was out, there's parts of that you want to maintain, but other guys are out there playing, so you kind of got to take a step back and make sure that the team understands. You're there to do whatever you can to help them win, but there's somebody else on the field that's going to be, the general. It's going to be the quarterback, and they need to listen to that guy, and they need to run it how he wants it ran, and that type of stuff. But you know, to me, I just want to win. I just want to win, and I don't care how we do it. I don't care, what the numbers are. I don't care if we throw the ball 60 times or if we run the ball 60 times or somewhere in between. And whatever the play that's called, I want to go out there and do whatever is necessary to make it successful. And I think that's how I've always played. I think that my team responds well to that because that's how the rest of my team is. They don't care who. You look at our defense. I mean, I think we got the best defense in the league, and yet we don't have, guys that are up for Defensive Player of the Year, and we don't have, all 12 guys on the All-Star team and that type of stuff because they play well as a group. And I think that's just the theme of our team is just whatever it takes. It doesn't matter, who gets the credit. It's going to change every single week. You look at our wide receiving crew. We got, 5 guys that all go out and do their job every single week. And sometimes it's Adarius, sometimes it's Kenny, sometimes it's Darrell. And, Nate and Corey and Shamad and guys like that continue to do their job as hard as they can, and that's what makes everything successful. So, I try to implement that with how I play and how I try to lead the guys. But it's an easy job for me because they don't need me to lead. They know what to do, and we do it well together.
That being said, not that there's anything wrong with it, but there are some guys, thinking about the injuries that you've played through and some of the pain you've played through, there are some guys that would say, oh, just went through an hour of, stretches just to get through this game. You seem to be more of a quiet guy. Do you lead by example, and do you think the players notice that?
Well, I mean, I've always felt people that are leaders are more successful in terms of who I would want to follow if they just go out there and do it and don't talk about it. I don't really think that I'm a rah guy that's going to sit there and stand in front of all the guys and tell them what they got to go do to win. I'm just going to say, hey man, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna play this way. And I feel like if we all do that, then we're going to be successful. And more often than not, we do play like that. So, yeah, to me, if you go out there and you let your play speak for itself, you don't really have to talk. Man, I'm not surprised, but I am surprised. Just because during training camp, he's your typical new receiver to the league. He's swimming. We're putting in 50% of our offense in the first day. This guy's never seen a waggle in his life. He's been playing U.S. football since he was a little kid. So it's a lot to take in for a young receiver. And honestly, at the beginning, during all of training camp, I was more concerned about who my starting crew was and trying to get on the same page as those guys. But you started to see little things. He would just always make a big play. Like every day there would be some big play, and you'd watch it and you're like, man, I don't even really know what this guy's name is. I know he's number 87, and he's made a lot of big plays. And then when it clicked mentally and things started to slow down a little bit for him is when he really started to have success. And again, he didn't get pushed into it too early. It wasn't week one, and he's out there playing, which, lots been made of, if he played all 18 games, his numbers would be crazy. But I think that first 5-6 weeks or whatever for him to sit back and watch was probably pretty beneficial to him to really see, training camp and preseason is one thing, regular season is a whole nother game, and it's way faster. So I think that did him some good. But physically, he's extremely talented. I think anybody that watches football can see that. And so the part that maybe I'm a little surprised about is how mentally he's really picked it up and learned and understands the game, even though he's been in the league for just less than a full year. So.
How last year ended with the injury and coming back and having the off season again, get yourself right. Where was your head after week one? Do you remember getting the official diagnosis of the injury and realizing you're going to miss half the season? Like, where was your head after all that?
When they told me I was going to miss half the season, I was pretty ecstatic because before that I thought I was going to be done for the whole year. So, but I mean, the plane ride home was tough because we were playing in Fort Mac, so we had to fly back. And just sitting there and going, man, we just went through this. Like, just went through the crutches and not being able to walk and taking, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, getting a little bit of, feeling a little bit better and then pushing it and then having to rest for 4 or 5 days. It sucked. It was not fun. And I just remember thinking before we went and did the MRI, like, just please don't be a season ender, because I knew we had something special in that locker room. I felt it the year before, but I knew we weren't quite ready. But I really felt when I showed up in training camp, we had taken that next step to become a championship team, and I wanted so badly to be a part of it. And so I was grateful when I heard that there was a pretty good chance I could come back this year. Even when we got the diagnosis and we put the release out, I think everybody outside of our locker room was probably questioning whether or not I was going to be able to come back. And then even when I was put in the games, is it too soon, this and that. But I think our staff did a great job. They helped me back, honestly, in terms of 3 or 4 weeks before they let me go out and play. I was arguing with them every day, telling them it's ready, it's ready. It clearly wasn't. And so the timing of how they handled things, I appreciate that, because, they're able to look at the big picture. As a player, you just want to get back out on the field, but they looked at it and realized we were still in a good position, and it'd be better for me to be healthy and to be able to play in this game than maybe a game in week 7 or week 8. But there was definitely a time. I mean, I think anybody that's gone through a pretty severe injury in professional sports, it's a blow for sure, because, we work incredibly hard to try to get out on the field every single week and play. And when it gets taken away from you, it sucks. And you really learn to appreciate the times when you're out there on the field. So, like I say, I feel grateful. I feel blessed just to be able to battle with my teammates, stand on the sideline and watching them play. I mean, it's fun, but it hurts a lot not to be out there with those guys fighting, because we've been through a ton together. So I'm happy to be back.
So do you immediately reset the goal that, okay, I won't be around half the year, but the goal is get back?
It's part of that, but I wanted our team to be in a good position when I did come back. I didn't want to come back to a team that had only won a game or two. So you kind of have to balance it, being the veteran quarterback on the team. It was really the first year for me where I was going to be easily the oldest guy in the quarterback room and the only one really with any experience. Well, Matt was there at the time, but once he left, it was like, man, now I'm really. But I was the oldest guy and had the most experience, and I knew, okay, I lean on these guys when I'm playing, and now I need to be there for them to lean on me. So a lot of it was the rehab and all that stuff, but a big part of it too was still breaking down the film, still meeting with the wideouts and talking with the other quarterbacks as a big group and just trying to figure out, the best way to go about each week to get a win because, I said it when Matt got traded that, he kept us in a good position and he made it so that when I did come back, it wasn't all for naught. It put us in a position to be where we are now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 2013 was tough for sure. Yeah, Winnipeg was in a similar situation to us that year, um, and that's tough too because that was my first chance to finally, be the starter on a football team and winning 4 games. You're wondering if you're going to get another opportunity to continue to be the starter. Um, we were close. We had a lot of close games that we ended up losing, but the core group of guys that were here in 2013, we used to say it all the time to each other, especially Odell and myself. After every close game that we would lose, I would find him and I would just say, "Remember this, man. Like, remember this, because we're going to talk about this at some point in time, and we're going to laugh about it, and we're going to say, man, that sucked, but we had to go through that to find success." And this year has been the year where I've found him and said, "Remember those games, man? You remember those? Remember how bad that was? It was all worth it to feel this." So, yeah, it wasn't fun, but I do think that that part of that made us into the team that we are today. I think it's a number of things. You know, when I was a kid growing up, I had an older brother and a younger brother, and we learned real quick if we were playing football in the backyard and somebody got hurt and came running in to mom, it was either get back outside and keep playing or you're done for the day and you don't get to go play with the boys anymore if you can't handle it. Another part of it was my dad was my coach when I was young, from the time I was like 7 until I was probably 13 or 14. And being a coach's kid kind of sucks sometimes because my dad took the route where he was going to push me harder than anybody else so that no other parents could come and complain and say, "Oh, you're being too hard on my kid." He was like, "You think I'm being hard on your kid? Look at how I am on my own kid." And so he was like, he would never let me scramble out of the pocket. He's like, "You're going to stand in there and take the hit, but you're going to throw the ball." So that was part of it too. But I think probably the biggest was, I really feel like I haven't ever been handed anything. I was at Washington State player for a year as a walk-on, and then I transferred to Central Washington so that I could get an opportunity to play, and I felt like I had to earn that. And ever since then, I've always had to go somewhere, and I've been buried on the depth chart and had to try to, even in high school, we moved when I was a junior, and so there was a starter there that was going to be a senior the same year as me. I had to split time with him for the first half of the season and earn that starting job. So, I understand how hard that I've worked to get to where I am, but I also know how quickly it can be taken away. And so to me, whenever I'm done playing, I just hope to look back on it and say, I really gave everything that I had to give every snap that I took, because I can be proud of that. And, I think if you give anything less, in my mind, you look back on it and have regret, and I don't want that. Yeah, I mean, it was part that, part like, we're gonna find out if this knee's ready or not. I mean, I've been arguing with them for like a month that I was ready to play, but again, deep down inside, I knew it wasn't ready at the time, and I'm like, man, okay, we're gonna find out. To me, it was more if I was still gonna just have that instinct of doing what I needed to do to help my team win, or if I was gonna be skittish and maybe not going to play the same way that I'm used to playing. And, I was excited to go into the game. But again, like I said, I was curious how I would react to it. And I found out on the second play. I think we had a penalty on the first play. It was like 1st and 15 or something like that. And, there was a little bit of leakage in the pocket, and I had to take off and run. And, I probably should have slid like 5 yards short of the first down, but I think I ended up taking a hit by a couple of guys. We got the first down. I was like, we're back to playing football, baby. It was a great feeling. So.
Mike, is there a player, everybody on the field wants to win a Grey Cup, is there a player on your team that you would really be happy for if you guys could come through, maybe a long-term player?
Yeah, there's two guys, Calvin McCarty and Brian Ramsey. I mean, those two stick out to me the most. They've been, both been in the league for a long time. Calvin's been with Edmonton his whole career. Brian's had a couple of different teams, but he's been in Edmonton for a long time. And this is, for both of those guys, the first time they've had an opportunity to come and experience and play in a Grey Cup. And, I'm glad that we got them here, but it's not far enough. It's I want to get them that ring for sure. And again, you never know how long you're going to play, how many chances that you're going to get. But both of those guys have played for a long time, and they've never had that chance. So, I want the ring for everybody on my team, coaching staff, my teammates, myself. But those two guys, for sure, the most. Thank you.